So, good morning. This is where we stayed last night. It's called the Brendan Arms in Bude. We had a lovely evening here. It's actually part of the hotel next door, which is the Falcon Hotel, both of which we saw on booking.com, but we went for the cheaper alternative of the two, and we weren't disappointed. We ate here last night as well, which is very, very nice. Bude itself is lovely. Let me give you a look, because we saw this in the dark last night. Let me just show you briefly what Bude looks like. This is a man-made waterway with lock gates at the end where it meets the sea, and that's Bude town the other side. But now we're going back to the bike. There's Esther, helmets in hand, and this is where the bike's been parked. So lovely morning, ready to go again. Hello, well, we're at our first stop on our second day, which is Crackington Haven, which is a delightful little Cornish village, completely unspoilt. It's a beautiful, bright, sunny day, but it is February, so it's cold. So it's under 10 degrees. I think we're hovering around somewhere around about the 5 or 6 degree mark, which is why we're all so wrapped up. Let me just show you what Crackington Haven looks like.
This is our second attempt at making a moto vlog video. If you've watched episode 1, you'll know that we are seasoned motorcyclists who, inspired by other YouTubers, are filming our adventures for you to enjoy. We may be experienced motorcyclists, but as you can probably tell, we know pretty much nothing about filming, presenting and producing YouTube videos, but we're learning. In these early videos we simply tried to capture what we could on our phones and put it together in such a way that you might want to follow our journeys that we call adventures. Please bear with us as we try to improve along the way. In this adventure we are simply travelling around the British coast. I say simply, the reality is somewhat more difficult. There's no definitive road, and you might be surprised to hear just how inaccessible some places are. Trying to keep to the coast adds miles, coupled with slow roads, and the time quickly slips away. Spoiler alert, at the time this episode was produced, we'd actually completed a fair bit of the overall task. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes and see how we did it.
As we travel around, we try to see as much coast as we can, but because the coastline of Cornwall is so jagged, it meant that we had to do lots of riding down and riding back up again to visit as many of the beautiful Cornish coves as we could. We managed to thread together lots of the lanes to achieve this. The coves are so beautiful and rural that we certainly didn't want to miss them.
Okay, we're in a place called Watergate Bay, and there's a nice beach here. We just stopped for a quick refreshment break. There's a lot of surfers here, even this time of year, coming and going. The sea's out there.
We started yesterday, heading out from weston-super-mare and heading south. We hoped to get to Newquay, but had to settle for Bude, where we stayed at the Brendan Arms. Apart from trying to keep to the coast, we haven't got much of a plan. We decided not to pre-book any accommodation because we had no idea of the timescales. We also figured if things went wrong or the weather was awful, we'd simply take the quickest route home. Our plan was each day we'd ride until we had enough and then find somewhere to stay.
There are many things which make this trip enjoyable, but at times it was also quite challenging. As you can see, this lane is single track with high walled or hedged sides and was very steep. We had not ridden this lane before, so had no idea what was ahead. Good thing really, as we may have chosen an alternative route. A couple of the corners going down and then going back up on the other side were really sharp and really steep. We were thankful we didn't meet anyone else, apart from a couple of friendly biker guys. We stopped for a quick chat and joked about although the track was challenging, it was nothing compared to Itchy Boots rides. They knew exactly what we were talking about. Going up was just as challenging, or exciting, whichever way you look at it. And you may be able to hear me remind Jared to pay attention and reflect on what a nasty corner we had just navigated. On a little 125, sharp and steep corners are fun, but on a 1200, loaded with luggage and with me on the back, and with a total weight of about 500 kg, they are fun, but also very scary. Jared does a good job at keeping us upright.
So here we are, we're in Porthtowan Beach and Bay. So we've been through Newquay. We've got about an hour and 45 minutes before we get to the Levant Mine along the coast road. And it's a beautiful day still a little bit chilly, but otherwise good. I'm not sure you're going to be able to appreciate it, but there's some fantastic breakers out there.
This was a lovely biking road, with glimpses of the sea, but as you can hear, it was very windy. We are riding away from the seaside as much of the land in Cornwall next to the coast is privately owned, and there's not many roads that go through it. This meant that we had to ride through the farms and the farmland, which is just as beautiful. Much of the land is privately owned by the Crown, and the farms are tenant farmers. We come back down to the coast, having cut across Godrevy Point headland, down into the town of Hale. We got our first bit of bad weather here in Hale. In fact, it hailed in Hale. We get a glimpse of the viaduct going over the River Hale. Hale owes its existence to the metals mining industry. Its quay and natural harbour provided the perfect position for importing and exporting, as well as processing metal ore. And for anyone who's watched Poldark, you'll know exactly what we're talking about.
There are many old fishing villages in Cornwall with narrow cobbled streets crammed with small cottages on steep hillsides that descend towards the harbour, but St Ives is perhaps the most famous. There's no doubt it thrives today because of this appeal. In recent years it has attracted the disposable income of the very wealthy who purchase second and probably third and fourth homes here. Consequently, the community is, let's say, diverse, ranging from traditional activities such as fishing to world-class art galleries. The famous Tate has 4 prestigious art collections in the UK. 2 are in London, there's a 3rd in Liverpool, and yes, you've guessed it, the 4th is in this remote Cornish fishing village. If you're looking for something more authentic, then perhaps check out one of the other quintessential Cornish fishing villages.
Mining holds a special place in the hearts of the Cornish. Before iron and steel, bronze was the hardest and most durable alloy. Bronze requires copper and tin, and Cornwall has deposits of both. To begin with, it was easy to extract from the surface and river beds. Under the ground lay large seams of the metals, but these were difficult to get to. As technology improved, men worked out ways to mine these rich resources, in particular the ability to keep the mines from flooding using pumps operated by steam beam engines. The stone buildings and chimneys scattered all over Cornwall housed these engines and the fires needed to fuel them. The most dangerous mines were the ones on the coast. The tunnels stretched out to sea not far below the seabed. The mines needed to be constantly pumped to keep them dry. It was not uncommon for the seawater to breach the tunnels and shafts, and over the years many miners have drowned. Advances in iron production and the advent of steel led to bronze not being used as much. Coupled with the increasing difficulties in extracting the ores needed, the Cornish mines became unprofitable, and one by one they closed.
So we're at Levant Mine and Beam Engine. Cornwall's well known for its various mines. It's right on the coast because they mined, I think it was tin, copper and other metals that were mined here. And they actually went in under the sea, so they needed engines to pump the water out of the mine. And it was literally just the engines pumping the water out of the mine that kept them from flooding.
The Duchy of Cornwall is one of two royal duchies in England, the other being the Duchy of Lancaster. The duchy owns 205 square miles, 531 square kilometres in over 23 counties, including farming, residential and commercial properties. The eldest son of the reigning British monarch obtains possession of the duchy and the title Duke of Cornwall. Until recently, that was Prince Charles, but since his ascendancy to king, the current Duke is Prince William. This is in addition to other titles, possessions and privileges, such as Prince of Wales. The government considers the duchy to be a crown body and therefore exempt from paying corporation tax. The estate also enjoys other special legal rights, such as taking the property of anyone who dies in the county of Cornwall without a will or identifiable heirs. Prince Charles has tried to placate criticism by volunteering to pay tax, but this is on his terms and not subject to audit.
So we've made it to a Land's End. We are at the most westerly point of Great Britain. Don't think it's open as such, but they're not stopping you from walking around. And so, yeah, we're at Land's End. We've come round the site now to actual the Land's End bit. We're at the Land's End Hotel. We just looked to see what our room is. 171 for the night, but it's only 4 o'clock and we feel like we've got another hour at least riding we can do. So here we are at the Land's End. This is the most westerly point of the British Isles.
It might say mousehole, but the Cornish pronounce it mousehole. Got to Penzance and called it a day. We found a lovely guest house to stay. They recommended several restaurants and we opted for a Chinese. We weren't disappointed. We hope you've enjoyed this second episode of our first adventure and will join us for episode 3 as we continue our quest to ride the UK's coastline. Please like and subscribe.
Once you get some of the sizzling.